Welcome to the very first episode of Proving Grounds. I'm your host, Andrew, and before we delve into our very first topic, I would like to take a minute to introduce the show. The Proving Grounds is meant to be a forum for civil discourse, polite conversation with the hope of developing into a long format style of interview, with interviews, small walks of life and viewpoints, hopefully maybe some actual experts in different fields of study. I will say up front that I believe in the idea of America, its founding documents, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. I will always trend towards liberty, individual rights, free markets, and a government small in both scope and footprint in our daily lives. That being said, I'm more than happy to learn as I go, and I will reevaluate any assumptions that I have as new information is gathered. With that being said, today's topic are the virtues of a modern warrior. This topic comes by way of a friend of mine whose name is Doug. This one's for you, Doug. We've had conversations regarding this at various times throughout the course of the last year. So I decided to make this my first video. And the virtues of a modern warrior, I limited it to 7. And those are strength, honor, discipline, mastery, rational self-interest, and reason. And these virtues were forged in the crucible of adversity and sharpened on the whetstone of reason. A warrior seeks to protect that which is properly his freedom, his property, his family, and his country. To this end, he will seek to learn the necessary skills to do what has to be done, not just in the event of some violent encounter, but in everyday life. In the event of a violent encounter or some terrible tragedy, the modern warrior will close the distance regardless of fear to neutralize the threat. Afterward, he will articulate the reasoning behind his actions in an intelligent manner to the appropriate authorities. He knows in these modern times that he might go to jail for defending his life or the life of another, but he knows it's better to lose his freedom for a time than to die. You don't want to lose your life. Or even worse, you don't want to have to live with shame, knowing that you could have saved somebody, your child, your wife, your friend, even some random stranger, but you didn't because you didn't act. And you know you could have. And that frame of mind, it is better to be judged by 12 than be carried by 6. To a modern warrior, the opinions of lesser men do not concern him, nor should they, because the values of a beta male are not his values. So what does that little monologue mean? Well, first of all, we'll start with what is virtue? And to me, virtue are the actions you take that cause you to gain or retain the values you have. And by that I mean most of us go through life without really thinking about what we really value. It's usually something comes along, knocks you on your ass, and makes you think, oh wow, shit just got real. And then what happens? Well, one of two things happen. You take it laying down, or you get up, you dust yourself off, and you fight back. It's in that moment later when you reflect on it that you look back and go, why did I do that? Why did I take these actions and have this outcome? What was it that caused me to do this? And at the end of the day, it's your values. And it's at that point when you have to evaluate what you value, what values you have, and do they serve your interests? And then, this further goes along, and what things are properly yours? Your freedom, your property, your family, and your country. Those are all things that are yours. Things you should be willing to fight to protect. And not everyone is, and that's fine. But for anyone who would be considered a modern warrior or even a truly masculine male, they're going to fight for those things as best they can. Tooth and nail. They're not going to give it up. Just pack it up and go home. I didn't need that wife. I didn't need those kids. I really don't need my country. Freedom isn't all that important. No, that's not something a modern warrior is going to sit there and think. They're going to do what it takes. But also living in a modern, civilized, and relatively safe country, we have to understand that we need reasons for the things that we do. Okay, your actions have consequences, and you can't just have a minor argument with some dude at the bar. Some guy looked at your girl, and now you're going to have a knockdown, drag out brawl. You knock out all of his teeth. Well, when you have to explain that to the police, you're not going to look good, right? You're going to look like the idiot, the barbarian that you really are. Now, if someone assaults you and you fight back, you defend yourself, you handle your business, well, when the police come, you don't let emotions override your sense of reason. You're going to articulate what happened. You're going to tell your side of events, and, it'll show. That kind of staying cool, calm, and collected, that's going to show. But you have to remember, even if you articulate what you did, you have to be in the right. So part of that is knowing, basically, the use of force continuum. It's codified into law. Every state has one. The federal government has one. So depending on where you're at, your code of conduct is going to change. And it's up to you to know what that is so you can defend yourself. Now that we discussed that and what virtue is, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. Okay, we're going to start off with strength. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm not talking about emotional or mental strength. We'll get to that a little bit later. For this part, strength is mostly about raw physical power. And I would include your overall general physical preparedness, your fitness. As men and as warriors, we should always work to develop as much physical power as we can to maintain it. All else being equal, the more fit man will always triumph in a physical confrontation over a weaker man. That's why a proper strength and conditioning program is important. But it's also important to have a logical assessment of your body type, age, inclination, knowledge of strength building techniques, and any potential handicaps you may have. I mean, I have a buddy, he was a 125-pound man most of his life. This kid could eat a pizza, and just the action of eating the pizza, he'd burn more calories somehow than he took in. He'd actually lose weight sometimes. That kid was never going to turn himself into a 250-pound behemoth. Probably not even if he did all the steroids in the world. So knowing that, it would be improper for him to go out trying to sling 5 times his body weight and just going all out like that when he could cater to his strengths. So maybe his overall output isn't going to be the same as a larger man's, but he can become pound for pound more strong. He can increase his endurance, both muscular and his metabolic conditioning, so we can go harder, longer, right? So you have to understand that. I mean, compare him at the age of 25 to a man who's 56 with 2 bad knees and a slipped disc. Their two workout regimens are going to be completely different. So we have to be realistic about what we're doing. Otherwise, one, you hurt yourself, right? And a wounded warrior really isn't going to be, as good in a fight. So you want to maintain your general physical preparedness. You don't want to sacrifice anything. I should say, you shouldn't want to sacrifice your health in order to try to do that, because it's self-defeating. Next up, we have honor. And honor in our society has a certain romantic quality to it, and it's a certain nobility, which is garnered from having great integrity. An honorable man proves himself loyal to his principles, to those he's sworn loyalty to, such as friends, family, co-workers, maybe his military unit belongs in the military. Could be something like a club. You promise you're going to be somewhere, you got to be there. You got to be reliable. In the face of adversity, a strong sense of honor, that desire to meet or exceed the standards of a given situation, that's going to help him bolster his resolve and overcome grave danger. Another way of putting honor is saying a man is only as good as his word. Now, I grew up in farm country, and to be honest, when we moved up there, my family moved up there, my stepfather, he made a lot of deals, were handshake deals. The first bit of grain we got to raise birds, that was him walking in there with a reference from a buddy. Hey, my name is Mike. I need this grain. I need this much protein in it. I need 1,000 pounds. Can I get it on credit? I promise by this date, I'll make payment. Nothing more than his word and a handshake. He got his grain. We raised our birds. We started making our payments. I was constantly being told as a child, a man is nothing without his word, or a man is only as good as his word. Without your word, you're nothing. So, and he wasn't the only one who lived like that. A lot of the farmers, local businessmen, they all conducted business like that on a regular basis. Now, the danger to that is what? Someone goes back on their word. Well, the deal is, anyone who violates one of these handshake deals, you're right, I can't take you to court. You're not going to face that civil liability through the court system. But you're going to be shunned by the society at large. Yeah, maybe you can go to the local grocery store, they'll take your money. But when the chips are down and you need that bread, you need some milk, whatever, you're not getting it because you're not trustworthy. You don't have honor. Your word means nothing. Same thing with the bank. You won't get 1 red cent, not 1 stick of firewood, nothing. You fail to honor your word. You don't maintain your commitments. And that doesn't matter if it's in the face of adversity or even just plain apathy. You made a promise. You need to keep it. And, that can be the difference between the hay in your fields not getting taken care of because your tractor broke down and no one will let you borrow theirs. No one will do it for you. No one will do it on the promise that you'll pay them. None of that. You're just screwed. And you deserve to be screwed. But not only does that hurt you with your local community, it hurts you and your family. I mean, as a warrior especially, someone who may have people waiting for them or needing them to protect them, you have to guard your honor jealously, because without it, your role as a leader and protector is severely undermined, and justly so. If your own family can't trust you, how can anyone else? Next up is discipline. Now, discipline to me is all about consistency and self-control. Self-control is actually gained by consistently putting in the work to complete given tasks. And that task may be just basically working on pretty much any task you do is really working on yourself. Teaching yourself a new skill, all that requires discipline, right? So that doesn't matter if you want to learn piano, swing dance, or how to deliver a perfectly timed spinning back kick. You have to train in a logical, disciplined manner. This means you have to do the work every day. When you don't feel like doing it, okay, those are the times when you need to allow the rhythm of your consistent everyday discipline to carry you through to realize your true potential. And that's bit by bit. Okay, warriors are not born, they're built. Pure and simple. Without discipline, the other virtues are completely worthless. In fact, you could probably argue that without discipline, there can be none of the above mentioned virtues. Next up, we have mastery. And to me, mastery is extreme proficiency with a certain skill or subject. Now, a modern warrior seeks to cement his mastery over himself and his enemies by expanding his skill set as well as by honing the skills he currently possesses. Okay, you can't... Many skills that you can acquire, especially in the realm of tactics, in fighting arts, those are perishable skills. You will get rusty. You will not be as good as you were a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago. You need the repetition. There are very few people out there that put in enough repetitions to be extremely proficient years from now, never having done it before. I don't even know if that's possible. And you're certainly not going to be as good as you were when you were training all the time. And one thing you need to realize is that nobody could possibly know everything, and it would really be foolish and really arrogant to pretend that you can. And that doesn't mean we don't continue to grow as we get old, as warriors and men in general. As we get older, we have to grow, we have to expand our knowledge. And there comes a point in time where you begin to work smarter and not harder. We should always learn to seek to defend ourselves physically and mentally from anyone who might oppose us. And that could be some dude on the street, or it could be in the boardroom. You have to use your mind. You have to use that mastery of your element to navigate those tricky situations. And that could be very easily be in the business world where things can often be cutthroat. And being a true master means you never stop being a student, period. I know a lot of guys that train, we'll use martial arts as an example, been training 20, 30, 40 years, and they'll still cross-train with other people. They'll learn things from students that have cross-trained with other people. They're always interested in honing their craft, and then they usually take what they've learned elsewhere and use it to hone their primary skill set. There's that mastery is what allows you to be versatile, to have many tools in your toolbox. But it's not enough just to have a bunch of tools. Every tool that you actually put in that toolbox needs to be something that you've developed a certain level of proficiency with. Because it doesn't matter how many techniques you think you know or you kind of know. It's the ones that you have down solid. You have that timing down. Because if you don't, then you're going to get hurt. And you're going to get someone else hurt. And that's not what we want. And then that takes us to courage. And, well, we have a technical difficulty. Courage is the ability to overcome fear and accomplish the mission. Courage requires a certain amount of grit that doesn't allow fear to overcome you. And it's courage that allows seemingly normal men to perform acts of valor, to act decisively in the face of extreme fear and danger. In our everyday lives, we face fear all the time. It may be a public speaking engagement, approaching an attractive woman, facing a mugger, and for some, it still means going to war. Now, those things aren't all equal in danger, but that's just to illustrate that, each of us has our own personal demons to face and conquer. And it's that courage that grit that's going to allow you to dig deep and find your intestinal fortitude and carry yourself through the day. But the thing is, without courage, you're not a warrior. You're a boy or playing at being a warrior. You're putting up a front. You're really a beta male waiting around and wondering why your time never came. And that brings us to our next virtue, which is rational self-interest. And before we go any further, I know what a lot of you are going to say. No one's perfectly rational. You can't be self-interested. That's a bad thing. Selfishness is horrible. And I'm going to politely disagree. For one thing, yes, it's true. Human beings can't be completely rational all the time. The truth is, being rational is a skill. You have to work at it. You have to try to take emotion out of situations. And you have to constantly reflect and realize the times when you weren't rational and work on correcting the flaws and the mistakes of the past. So that way you can become a more calm, cool, and collected person. As far as self-interest goes, you don't do anything without there being some benefit to you. We're human beings. We are reward-driven creatures. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that you abuse other people. It doesn't mean you mistreat your family, your friends, people you work with, your employees, customers. No. You need to act in a rational manner. And so, rational self interest, uh, that means you focus on doing what's right for you, but in a rational way. This rejects the notion of sacrificing oneself to others, sacrificing others to yourself, or really sacrifice at all. A rationally self interested man does what is best for him based upon a set of moral principles which are rooted in objective reality. Okay? He doesn't take anything on blind faith, he doesn't give up his reason. Okay, that sense of that rational self-interest, you don't just give that up on a whim. When one is rationally self-interested, they know that you don't, it's not wise to mistreat your wife. For one thing, you love your wife. She's a value. You value her. And, so you're going to want to treat her right. And by being self-interested in that manner and say, you know what, I want to keep my wife, I better treat her right, that can help you at times to overcome your emotional states, such as when you're arguing, so you don't say something mean and hateful that will later bite you in the ass, maybe drive her away or make your relationship untenable for a time, maybe forever. It's the same thing with shady business practices. If you're a shady guy and you stab your coworkers in the back, or you don't come through on your deals with customers, one, your coworkers won't trust you, and they won't hesitate to throw you under the bus the first chance they get. Two, your customers are going to go somewhere else where they get better service, probably cheaper. And not only that, but when you act in a more amoral way, guess what? I should say, in a moral fashion, you will hurt yourself psychologically and emotionally. Everyone knows someone who lies, cheats, or has lied or cheated or steal. And people who have those traits where they do that on a compulsive level, really any level, but especially when they do it all the time, they're really severely insecure people. And part of the reason for that is because they know they're liars and cheats and thieves. You know it's wrong. If you don't admit it to anyone else, way down, deep down inside that that's wrong. And it causes you to become even more insecure. And usually you continue to lie, cheat, or steal to try to fill that void or to try to hide from the fact that you're really kind of a scumbag. Okay? So without being rationally self-interested, one can't really adhere to the other virtues. One has to be able to do what is best for themselves in a rational way. Otherwise, they'll either be convinced or coerced into giving away their values piecemeal. And this brings us to what I consider the most important of the warrior virtues as I have them laid out, and that is reason. Reason is the power of the mind to think. It is the principal means of man's survival, bar none. Without the ability to reason or to think, mankind never would have developed into the creature he is today. At best, humans would simply be another animal toiling away as best they can with whatever perceptions they happen to be born with. Okay, our lives in that situation would be bitter, short, and cruel. I mean, imagine not being able to work with abstract concepts and to be able to go outside the box of what you're born with. Whatever you just happen to see around you is what you got to work with. I mean, imagine having to kill a deer, catch a rabbit, fight. Imagine being you fighting an animal, even a deer. This, Disney fluffy looking creature prancing around in the forest. If any of you happen to be hunters or have had the misfortune of running afoul of a deer, those hooves are sharp. Those antlers will hurt you. And a full-grown deer, even a doe, a female deer, they're going to put a hurting on you if you get one cornered. And with your bare hands, what do you have to take down a deer with? You're going to hope for main strength. I mean, our nails, even if they're longer, they're terrible as claws. I mean, our ability to reason is where we get the ability to create all the tools that allowed us to survive and thrive and end up becoming the principled creatures that we are today. We would not be human beings as we know it without this ability to reason. Reason is the vehicle to philosophy, wisdom, and greater mastery of the world around us. We bend nature to our will, but we only do so within the confines of nature's laws. I mean, they're the laws of physics. You can't break those laws. Okay, even when we think we're breaking those laws, what we're really finding out is that we just didn't have as good an understanding of the laws of nature as we thought we did. I mean, think about it now. Physicists constantly learn. Every time they learn something new, they begin to realize how little they actually know. And it's without the ability to think, there is no fundamental philosophy outside of the needs and urges of the animal self. Without reason, none of the other virtues are possible. This takes us to philosophy. I'm going to discuss that because without reason, there can be no philosophy. Because philosophy is the study of fundamental nature of reality. I don't have this listed as a virtue, but it's incredibly important, especially to someone who wants to develop a warrior mindset. Okay, how we perceive the world around us informs all of our virtues. How much, and the truth is, how much is strength worth without the proper guidance on how to properly use it, right? Or when to properly use it? What good is honor going to be to you without a rational code of conduct to maintain? Can one even have a code of honor, or should I say honor in general, without a rational, consistent code of conduct? If discipline is about consistency and self-control, then how can that even be achieved without a basic understanding of the world around you and its guiding principles, right? How can we master ourselves and learn the knowledge and skills we need if we have no rational guiding principles with which to explore the world around us? Okay, that's why philosophy is so terribly important. Our philosophy is often really just a hodgepodge of contradictory notions learned from our parents, maybe a priest, maybe some teachers, maybe an aunt or an uncle who thinks a little differently. Most of us simply inherit these things. I shouldn't say things, these principles, or they're bad, or often bad philosophy, and it's really to your detriment. Our philosophy really should be rationally sought out, and we should try to find one that best fits us. What serves you, right? What helps you to live the most fruitful life that you could possibly live? Philosophy is how ultimately what determines how we view the world, okay? And it also determines how we're going to navigate it both practically and morally. A proper philosophy makes being a true warrior possible. Also makes just being a good man possible. One can't have any of the other virtues without it. And even if you did think you had those virtues, you wouldn't be able to properly utilize them. You wouldn't have the framework to use them. And I'm not going to tell you which philosophy you should adhere to, but I would strongly urge you to learn as much as you can and use your reason to distinguish between the wheat and the chaff. Okay? Don't take anything on faith. Don't surrender your reason to another person. Look into things. There's nothing wrong with questioning anything, because if whatever beliefs you have, whatever things you think, if you can't question those, then you're already on shaky ground and you know there's something wrong there. And, what have we already discussed? What does a true warrior have, right? The courage to shed light on himself and the things that he believes and maybe make some corrections. And your honor demands that you do so. Okay? Because if you're not loyal to yourself, how can you be loyal to others? With that being said, those are the 7 main virtues that I wanted to discuss. But I would be remiss if I didn't, mention a few other qualities specific to a warrior. And some of those qualities are basically one of them, which I think is extremely important, is the intrinsic desire to always close the distance with your enemy. Okay? Under no stretch of the imagination can you be a warrior if you're not willing to close the distance, especially with an aggressive opponent. And then there's also, you need the ability to take that decisive action under pressure, to handle the mission as it comes at you. Okay, because as a warrior, you need to be able to handle yourself. It doesn't matter, again, if it's some guy trying to shoot up the grocery store and you got your kids with you, or if you're in the boardroom dealing with, a hostile takeover of your company, or just someone who happens to be vying for your position. Someone wants to steal your job out from under you. You can't take that lying down. You have to be able to act decisively, or you can't be counted on. You will, and you definitely will, be relegated to the status of beta male in the hierarchy. Okay, you can start off looking like an alpha male, but you start to falter, you don't make the right moves, you don't follow through with what you need to do, you're going to start falling down the rung. Okay, because as men, we're always watching. Right? We're always holding each other accountable. We always hold each other to a certain standard. And the more demanding the job, the more serious the nature of our jobs, really the more stringent we become with each other. Another really important quality of a warrior is accepting the reality of the given situation, okay, and then driving on. Okay, that means you take responsibility for the outcome of any situation, regardless of emotional considerations, okay? Regardless of how fair it is, right? How many people do you see something bad happens and they stand around whining about the unfairness of the situation? Real men, warriors, don't do that, okay? Okay, that's just giving into irrational emotion, and that's just deceiving yourself. You got to take ownership of the situation, because taking ownership of the situation allows you to change things in the long run. That allows you to say, okay, yeah, today sucks. So you know what? I'm going to embrace the suck. I'm going to pick myself up by my bootstraps. I'm going to work through this. Tomorrow's going to be another day, and things are going to get better. And that takes me to the warrior's greatest asset, his best weapon, and that's his mind. Okay, it doesn't matter what else is in your toolbox, because everything that you are as a human being, let alone a warrior, that begins in the mind. Okay, there have been entire armies have been defeated using psychological warfare. Right? You've convinced people have been convinced that they couldn't possibly win, and so you know what? They go out of their way to fulfill that prophecy for themselves. Okay? And again, there is no technique, there's no weapon, there's no tool that is of any use to someone who hasn't developed the proper mindset with which to use it. And then there has been literature on this before, like the Book of Five Rings, the Life-Giving Sword, the Demon's Sermon, the Art of War. At various points in each of these, there's a lot of talk about what the warrior mindset is, the proper mindset for any given situation. And you know what? That's like one of the most important things is maintaining that proper mindset. Okay, and not only developing it, maintaining it. Because again, your mind, your sense of reason, that is what informs every other virtue. And that is, at the end of the day, what's going to allow you to develop yourself both as a warrior and a human being. Now, that's all I have for you on this topic tonight. And thank you for watching the show. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay? If you like the show, please click like, share, and subscribe, like everyone else always says. There's definitely going to be more content to come. And as I said earlier, I would love to have guests on the show, but the only way to do that is for you to show your support through the likes, shares, and subscriptions. basically, if you guys support me, I can use that as leverage to convince other people to actually come onto the show, whether that's in person or through Skype. Logistics aside, that's the only way anyone's going to want to come on the show. They have to see viewership and subscribers. With that being said, also let me know what other kinds of topics you would like to see in the future, and I will definitely see about making that happen. I'll throw any pertinent information for contacts in the links below.